Talk to me about, some of the data that's been ripped out there. I know the New York Times, I think, settled a lawsuit with ChatGPT. I think it's now public knowledge that OpenAI ripped every single transcription of all of YouTube videos, even though they broke the law to do it. And they're meanwhile trying to get data because there's only a certain amount of it. And they're trying to rip it left and right. What are your thoughts on that? And then why should people be aware of that and then know about what they can do to protect their own data?
Well, to protect it, it's not easy. And let me think about it a second of what can you do. So you can use services and blockchain in several ways, and there are amazing companies that are helping people doing that. And in terms of what these large companies got their hands on, we have just no idea. I'm gonna be honest, which is probably everything already, or most things. But there's certain levels to data as well. There's like the superficial data, which is like, let's just call it like three layers. There's 1, 2, 3, and 3 being the deepest. The first one is like the superficial that you kind of put out there anyway, but you share on your social media. Second layer would be like either your location and some of your like movement data that's a bit more sensitive, but you still really don't care. You still use any of the apps that's kind of tracking you. But there are the sensitive data, that's your medical records, that's your banking information, and that's when it gets dangerous. I think most people go out their way to protect those as well, so those are kind of still safe, I would say. But to have a truly personalized assistant in the future, you're gonna need access to all 3 levels, and this is when it gets tricky.
Right.
As well.
This is when you don't want those big tech companies having that information about you. Because if they do, it can leak, they can target you in a way that's really unethical, and it's gonna happen probably. And so you're gonna want it. The other thing the blockchain brings is this kind of provenance of data, and I think this is really important. So right now, if you go to ChatGPT and ask it for a question, it'll spit out an answer. If you go to Google Gemini, I remember famously people asked for pictures of the founding fathers and they came out as, black people. And people were like, what's going on here? And you could see that kind of the tainted, as Elon Musk calls it, maybe woke mind virus of Silicon Valley was being infected into the AIs. And it was just a scary moment that kind of a political bias might be manifested in, pictures like that. And so it makes you start to wonder, where's my data coming from? Is it leaning left or right? These kinds of things. That's kind of scary if people are making decisions based on whatever spits out, like a Google search. I was on a Zoom call the other day with like 100 people in this kind of a high level mastermind group. And I was talking about, one of my guests, and one of the guys raised his hand and said, oh, I just ChatGPT'd and they said this guy is a blah, 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 conspiracy theorist. And I said, bro, you really are gonna take as face value anything ChatGPT says? You probably are the same guy that believes Wikipedia and believes everything the New York Times says. And he was just like, oh yeah, I do. And I was like, oh wow, we got a real problem here, because you're not seeing where that data is sourced. There's nothing on the blockchain saying I got the data here, here, and here. Can you talk about why that's important and maybe why a lot of people don't even know that's happening?
Probably most people have no idea. And as you said, the majority of people probably take whatever ChatGPT says at face value. We did play around with it in a way about some political questions, like about, for example, back then, at the times of the Syrian war, for example, just, kind of asking them about questions that the answer should be like either leaning towards one side, like, I don't know, lots of iterations. And there is definitely bias in some of the models. And then that might be coming from what the direction of the actual company is, or it might be decided by, I don't know, like the top management or someone who is training these models. But we actually have no way to know where the data is coming from. You can clearly see it. It's something that you can do. It's one of our first alpha products, I would say, in terms of Skillful AI. It's something that we call a model hub, which you can just come and log in. Anyone can try it right now as well, where you can talk to 3 different models of your choice on the same screen, giving one prompt and then see the differences between them. So that can bring some interesting results.
So you can talk to like ChatGPT and Llama.
There's
and
more than
Gemini.
more than 120 models integrated already, I think. But yeah, all the big ones are
and
there.
And then you can see the different results.
Yeah.
Grok in there as well?
Yeah, Grok is gonna be there soon.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Llama is in there, and all the major ones are there, even Mistrals and everything. So that's, I would encourage everyone to try it. And we actually made that, by one part it's being a foundation of the AI builder that we are creating. Another part, it's an educational kind of way to show people of what these can do and what different opinions they might have if you ask them about, like, for example, Trump, let's say, or anything that comes up. Yeah.
Joe Rogan was famously talking about an example where he said, what's worse, if I misgender Caitlyn Jenner or thermonuclear war? And I think, maybe he was exaggerating, but it came back and said, yeah, you don't want to misgender. We'd rather take the thermonuclear war. And look, whether it's true or not, I think it just highlights maybe the alignment or the priorities of some of these models. And again, they're going to make these decisions based on how they were trained. And I think it just shows that these biases are real. And if you are concerned about them, you need to have something like Skillful AI, where you can at least look at the different types, you can see where the data is coming from, and then ultimately keep your data private, right? And choose where your AI is coming from.
Yeah.
And another thing about what you do is you bring in all sorts of models.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So we're gonna be training our own ones. Our first stable diffusion, which is image generation, it's I think it's probably ready by last week or today. It's not deployed or it's not accessible for the public yet, but it's gonna be very soon. And we're going to have some news around that. But we are going to be training our own models. We're going to be essentially hosting these large open source ones as well, and kind of tweak them, refine them, so they kind of become their own models, essentially. We are, like a much smaller company than one of these like large AI companies, so we don't necessarily have the resources of hundreds of millions of hardware to do everything from scratch, but we're going to be able to do that. And essentially, we're going to be aggregating all the tools that we think that they are useful for one of the users. So that's meaning all of the models that are out there, whether if it's through an API, so it's a closed one now, or open source, and we're going to be hosting them as well, but also all the other integrations, your payment gateways, you name it, whatever applications. And essentially, you're going to be able to build these agents through that way. So you can pick your base model. We're going to be giving recommendations. In many cases, it's not the best way to use one of these large models because of, might be latency, might be price, because when you are talking to OpenAI and it's not a mini, let's say it's the original 4.0, it's a large model to run. You don't necessarily, it needs a lot of compute, for example. And then most of probably 90% of the tasks, you can get away or get a really, really good result with a much smaller model. So they're going to be able to pick that, and we're going to make recommendations, and then pick the skill set, personality, the strategy it uses, even generate images for it, kind of pick the whole personalities, and just build it block by block, and then that's how you're going to be able to make an agent. You can think of it as what Wix did with website building, so one of these like visual drag and drop builders for kind of websites, or what essentially Canva did for graphic design. So same frictionless experience, probably 15-20 minutes, depending on the data and the complexity, to build one of these agents and to deploy it and even start using it or start monetizing on it in a way.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.